Now, it shouldn't be too hard for Thomas Voeckler to defend the yellow jersey today. Stage 11 is 167.5 kilometres from Blaye-les-Mines to Lavaur, with just a couple of small climbs along the way. The intermediate sprint is pretty much slap bang in the middle of the stage at Gaillac after 85 kilometres. And the day's inevitable breakaway should be reeled in before the finish, so that Greipel, Cavendish, Rojas, Gilbert and anybody else who thinks they're hard enough can fight it out at the finish.
Well, the organisers seem to have stayed true to the theme of this year's race and put some gradient in the final. But hang on, they seem to have installed this one upside down, because this drag slopes towards the line. Yes, if the sprinters could have written the script for this finish, this is how it would read. No hills in the final few kilometres, and so straight that on my morning reconnaissance I could almost see the finish from 4 kilometres out. And with a good grippy surface, even the heavy showers we're having shouldn't put a dampener on today's run-in. Today is the very last roll call for the sprinters before the Pyrenees gives them an enforced break. Mark Cavendish needs every single sprint point that he can get, but as yesterday showed, he's not going to get them without a fight. Once there, Tyler Farrar might pop back up. The ever-present Jose Joaquim Rojas may at last get his shot, and of course, having now tasted success, André Greipel could find he has a fully committed team behind him. With about 5 kilometres to go, there is the tiniest of blips which might offer an opportunity for the non-climbers, but more than likely, it's going to end up in a mass gallop. Well, it might be damp here in Lavaur, but I, for one, am still expecting a fireworks finale. Oh, that was cheesy. Who wrote that line?
Inside 4 kilometres to go for Lars Boom now, as he ties the time trial away from the field, which will take some doing. He's going to have to hit 50 kilometres an hour at least and hold it now as he runs down to the finish. This is everything or nothing for him. As he pushes on now, the peloton are slowly wrapping it all up behind him, as out of the mare comes about 160 cyclists racing in a long straight line towards Lavaur.
Well, Andre Grifko, he's back in the folder. Ruben Perez is resisting a fraction, only about 50 yards off the front end of this main field. And Lars Boom really has put in a solid effort there. You can see the remnants of the breakaway. It's now, they're going to get swept up. That will leave just one man off the front of the peloton here this afternoon. And one man who could create the massive surprise and outwit the sprinters, Lars Boom.
3 kilometres to go as they pass under the banner. Everybody is back except one man. So the breakaway went 13 kilometres in. Most have been caught at 3 to go. Lars Boom is still disrupting the thought of the sprinters here, as the workhorses from their teams are still having to try to reel this man in.
His legs are burning now with the lactic acid that's starting to build up in them. As you can see, the concentration on the faces of these riders. Fabian Cancellara is not thinking about sprint victories this afternoon. All he wants is to make sure that Andy Schleck is comfortably and safely taken to the finishing line. It's Bernie Eisel doing a man against man, trying to pull himself back to the wheel of the Dutchman Lars Boom.
Just notice Mark Renshaw there sitting in front of Mark Cavendish, just keeping him safe and sound on the left of our picture. And that's it now. We all come together at just over 2 kilometres from the finish. The sprinters have it now as they line up for the finish. And High Road have still got a few riders here, but only 3 of them. The middle man is Mark Renshaw. Tony Martin leads, and Cavendish is checking out who's around him. Well, I can tell him that Rojas is getting rather close to him and looking for the perfect lead out.
David Miller now comes to the front in the blue helmet. Behind him, it's Thor Hushoff. That obviously means that the sprinter for Team Garmin-Cervelo this afternoon is going to be Tyler Farrar, the American. He should be in 3rd position there. It's still a very long way to go to the line.
Another demonstration of how to ride a great time trial by the Scot here, David Miller. He really is superb at this sort of a run. They're looking now 1.5 kilometres to go. Farrar is the man on the far right, battling to get into the line.
Julian Dean trying to get himself in front of his team leader here. Julian Dean, the pilot fish there, floating in the wind is the 1 kilometre flag. The main field is under the control of our Garmin-Cervelo. David Miller will do a long turn. He will try and leave the last lead out to Thor Hushoff, who's there in his World Championship jersey, and now getting himself into that line is Julian Dean, the Kiwi. Zigging and zagging on
dodgy riding going on the right there with the elbow going out, as we see now Sky coming through in the middle here. Sky are going to get mixed up with this one today as they now get under that 1 kilometre to go. Are they getting control of the peloton for the British squad?
Well, Team Sky now riding alongside the team of Garmin Cervelo. It's Julian Dean who's on the front of making a massive big turn here, slipping back into about 4th position is Thor Hushovd.
Now, as they line up for the finish now, Greipel is also in the mix here again. He's going to look for Mark Cavendish. Tyler Farrar has got himself too early on the front on the right now as they open up the sprint on the left here. Cavendish is 3rd in line. Renshaw is waiting to lead Cavendish. That's off the final bend. Now Renshaw goes. He's got the Max missile locked into his back wheel. Tyler Farrar has gone onto the wheel of Cavendish, and Farrar has gone onto the wheel of Cavendish, but Cavendish doesn't care. Here he comes, Mark Cavendish and Andre Greipel. He looks at Greipel, he grips again. Oh boy, revenge is very, very sweet as Cavendish wins. Greipel gets 2nd and Farrar gets 3rd. Well, it just took 24 hours to get your own back.
Well, that was a perfect lead out once again by Mark Renshaw of Australia to put Mark Cavendish in the right position to just accelerate and catapult himself to the finishing line. There's the yellow jersey of Thomas Vogelfeld, so there'll be no more change in the overall standings. Cavendish, Greipel, right up there as well, Tyler Farrar.
Well, a tremendous result of pure sprinters, and see, Mark Cavendish missed his man yesterday in Mark Renshaw, who was dropped on the final climb and couldn't take him to the line. But it's all back to status quo now as Mark Renshaw delivered the missile to a perfect liftoff, and he's just pipped Andre Greipel in the sprint.
Well, it was a as pippings go. Cavendish, Greipel, Tyler Farrar, who's been almost invisible since his Stage 3 win, 3rd. Then Denis Galimzianov, Edvald Bosenhagen, Romain Feyou, Jose Joaquin Rojas and Sebastian Turgot. All the big names finished together in that group on the same time, although it wasn't the time that was important for Philippe Gilbert, it was the placing, and he was 66th, well out of the points. What's more, his Omega Pharma Lotto teammate couldn't limit the damage by beating Cavendish to the line. A double podium appearance for Mark Cavendish tonight. First the flowers for winning the stage, then the key costume change from the white and yellow of HTC into the green he'd like still to be wearing when the race reaches Paris. And when he starts flirting with Ned, you know he's in a good mood.
Oh, it's incredible. It's so nice to wear it again finally, you know. I think the colour suits me, don't you, Ned?
Yeah, absolutely. It's a spectacular success, that colour. Listen,
Ned, the master of off-the-cuff diplomacy, keeps him sweet for the next interview. And that's how the green points competition now looks. Cavendish leading on 251, 16 ahead of Jose Joaquin, and with 20 now on Philippe Gilbert, who slips to 3rd. No problems today for Thomas Voegtler. They'll begin tomorrow in the mountains, although if he can summon the spirit of 2004, he might just hang on for a day.